I'd like to introduce our first presenter here at the Planet MicroCap Showcase Vegas 2024, a good buddy, good friend, Yaniv Spielberg from Bragg Gaming. Let's get it.
Thanks, Bobby. Guys, thank you all for showing up this early. I know that last night everybody had drinks, so I appreciate the early risers. I'm going to introduce you Bragg Gaming today, and I'm going to try to keep it at about 15 minutes because, as some of you heard, there's a lot of questions that are popping up, so we can answer those. And for those who are on the webcast, they'll have a chance to also hear some of the questions here in the crowd. No need to bore you with the forward-looking statement, but if any issues, just look through our SEDAR filings and you'll see our latest MD&A and AIF, all updated to December 31st, 2023. And of note, next week on the 9th, we're going to release our Q1 financials. So that's obviously going to be updated, but until then, it's all on the website. Bragg Gaming Group is a multi-award winning supplier of online casino content, technology, and services to the iGaming industry. I know that's a lot of words, so I want to break it down for everyone who's either listening on the webcast or here in the room. I'm going to talk a little bit about the gaming industry so people understand really what we do and how we fit in the industry. And then I'll talk about Bragg. The gaming industry is divided into four verticals, I would say. I think everybody knows the poker, the lottery, sport betting, and iGaming. iGaming is a nice name for a casino. So it's table games, live dealer, and slot games. We are focused on iGaming and iGaming only. Tangentially, we touch on sport betting because, as you can imagine, you won't find a casino with only slots. There's going to be casinos with sport betting. Some of them have poker, some of them have lottery. But the products and services that we offer are products and services for the iGaming industry. So we create slot content, we create table games, and of course, we aggregate live dealer and others. I'll talk a little bit more about the U.S. In particular, but the distinction is important because in the U.S., and specifically in the U.S., there's a distinction in the regulation between sport betting and iGaming. And so as we speak here today, there are about 33 states where sport betting is legal. There are only 7 states where iGaming is legal. The states are New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Connecticut, which make about 90% of the iGaming GGR. This year projected to be at about $6.5 billion. And then you have Delaware, you have Rhode Island that recently regulated, and West Virginia. The 3 states out of the 7 represent maybe 5%, and so we're not actually operational in these states. But we'll talk about the U.S. industry. I just wanted to give you some background on what the U.S. looks like and the distinction between sport betting and iGaming and other types of online gambling. Bragg was founded in 2018 by way of an RTO. We did it on a TSX venture. Now, and obviously since then, and we'll go through the history of the company, we do listed on NASDAQ and TSX. We have over 450 people. When we started in 2018, it was under 150 people. We're licensed and otherwise regulated in about 25 jurisdictions. When I say jurisdictions, it's either states in the U.S., so we have licenses in New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan, Connecticut. We just applied for a license in Delaware. For those of you who are not in the gaming industry, these licenses are tens and tens of pages with personal licenses that have to be awarded to individuals, including directors and senior officers. This is all in an attempt to curb AML and all this other stuff that money causes people to do. We have multiple in-house content development studios and partner studios. So we develop our own content. When you walk down here on the casino floor, you'll see different slot machines with different types of games. We develop these games online, but we also partner with land-based guys who have some of these machines online, and we take their content and we develop it for online and we sell it. One of these examples, and again, we'll get to it in more detail, is a company called Blueberry. It's one of our really good partnerships. Blueberry is a land-based only slot manufacturer. We have an exclusive distribution deal with them online. So some of the titles that you will see online on the casino floor, like a Devil's Lock, is something that we will take and then convert online. We also have a turnkey solution, which is essentially the back end of any casino. That's everything that you would need from onboarding customers the money in, the money out, and all the back-end technology that comes with online casinos. A highly experienced management team, which have seen some changes, including this morning when we announced the new chief commercial officer, and we'll talk about that in more details. But you can see some of the studios that we have on the side, on the right side of the slide: Atomic Slot Lab, Indigo Magic, Wild Streak. These are all studios that are internal studios, and we develop all in-house. Our history, as I said, started in 2018. At the end of 2018, we did a reverse takeover on a Toronto Stock Exchange venture company. It was just a shell company. We never kept any of what the products and services were. And we acquired a company called Oryx. Oryx was a platform and content development company out of Europe. Since then, and we'll go through it, in high level, but in 2021, we raised about $40 million all in. We paid all the earnout that was due to the Oryx founder, and then we uplisted it to the Toronto Stock Exchange. We then did an acquisition of June of a content studio to streamline our content studio production, and in August, we listed onto the NASDAQ. In June of 2022, we did another acquisition to allow us to penetrate the U.S. market, the Spin Games acquisition, and in 2022, towards the end, in December, we also started selling our content and technology in the United States. Before that, and still most of our revenue is derived from Europe, and we'll talk about our numbers in a few slides. About 90% of our revenue is still derived from Europe, and this is why we report in euros. You'll notice that, and for those of you who are gamblers or invest in gambling companies, the European companies are a lot more advanced. I mean, England for online gambling has been regulated for 20 years. In the U.S., the first state, New Jersey, started in 2018. In 2023, towards the end in August, we've done some changes to our management team. We restructured the management team. The gentleman that you see on the slide smiling is Mats. He's also the single largest shareholder of the business. He owns about 20% of the business, and he is the chairman. The board, the new incoming board in 2023, wanted to align shareholders with management and the board, of course, and they decided that it would make sense to appoint the CEO or the former CEO of the Oryx business we acquired in 2018, which is also the largest single shareholder of the business, as the CEO of the business overall. And then in 2024, most recently in March, we announced a strategic review. I know a lot of companies have been doing it recently, but we have good reasons to. The online gaming industry has been packed with M&A activity. Some of our peers, some of our competitors, some of our partners have been either acquired or are acquiring. There's been a lot of M&A in the space because either the big guys are buying the small guys because of, economical conditions, or small guys and medium guys are doing mergers to become bigger. Some of the recent transactions that you've seen, and again, for those of you who follow gaming, IGT and Every announced a merger. Aristocrat acquired Aspire. Sega Sammy, which is a land-based company producing slot content, bought one of our competitors in the U.S. called GAN, and the list goes on and on and on. The valuations have been much, much better in the M&A side of our industry. The stock market has been pretty difficult for gaming companies, even very successful gaming companies. And because of that, you see a lot of M&A happening in the space. Given all the M&A that had happened in the space, the depressed valuation in the stock market, but on the flip side, high valuations on takeouts, the board decided that it would make sense to try to maximize shareholders' value. And of course, we engaged a European banker. For us, is the bank that is the go-to bank for any transaction for small cap and micro-cap companies. And we're going through the process. There's a special committee headed by Don Robertson, who is a former M&A guy. And, we'll obviously give some details when we report our Q1 numbers next week as well. I talked about the history of the company and really how we got to where we are, but, I want to go back and talk about what we do. And so I talked a little bit about the content. I talked about the technology and the services, so we're going to break it down. What we do, we have 3 verticals, but all of these verticals are all interactive and connected at the core. All of it is iGaming. We produce content. And so for those of you who walk down on the casino floor, you would not be able to have a casino unless you have table games and slot machines. We do the exact same thing for the online. We have our online studios where we develop our games from scratch. We have partnerships and agreements with slot manufacturers that don't have an online division to take their content online. And we aggregate third-party content. So content of content studios that don't have US licenses or European licenses in different jurisdictions. What we call shelter their content, and we develop and deliver it to our customers, both in Europe and North America, and more recently with regulations in Latin America, we're growing into that industry as well. Our technology complements our content. So the technology is essentially a content delivery mechanism. It's no different than owning a movie studio so you can sell your own movies. Our technology is player account management, which is an omni-channel casino, sport betting, and lottery for operators. It's essentially the backbone of any online casino that you would need to run games, to onboard clients, to let them play, win, lose, pay in, and pay out. We have a proprietary remote gaming server where all our content sits on, and that's what we end up delivering to our operators. And of course, all of that is complemented by engagement tools and data platforms, because today, and as you can imagine, we aggregate many, many points of data. I mean, we reported last quarter that we did over $6 billion in wagering. That's money in and money out of our platform. There's a lot of data points that we can aggregate so we can develop and redevelop and reimagine the games to make sure that the games are all part of the platform that we are servicing. And then the services, of course, are managed services where we complement all the stuff that we sell. We help our operators be the best versions of themselves. And all of that is backed by big data analytics. And, you know, everybody wants to use AI, but it's mostly big data analytics stuff. So when you talk about our content strategy and our content capabilities, you'll see that we have different innovations. We have opportunities in the content space. If you ever talk about, or if you ever hear any of the big D2C operators, the DraftKings, the FanDuels, the BetMGMs, the Caesars, the Rush Street Interactive, their view is the content is king. In jurisdictions, and we talked about jurisdictions where there's sport betting and iGaming, in jurisdictions where iGaming is legal and sport betting is legal, iGaming revenues for operators trumps sport betting 2 to 3 times. And so iGaming is a lot more profitable. It's a lot more lucrative. Evidently, to acquire a sport betting customer for one of the big operators, so the cost of acquisition is about, let's say, $500, anywhere between $400 to $600. To acquire a customer for online gaming, so slots and table games, iGaming, is over $1,000. That just shows you the lifetime value of the iGaming industry. And with that in mind, content is king. You have to always have the newest content, the coolest content, the newest mechanisms, the coolest mechanism. And so what we do, and what we've been doing really, really well, especially in the North American market, is the land-based style games. We take land-based games that do really well on casino floors, and we convert them online. We have some exclusive partnerships with the likes of Blueberry, King Show, Incredible Technologies. You'll see some of their content online on casino floors as you walk down. Devil's Lock by Blueberry, or games by King Show, or games by Incredible Technologies are some of the most played games on casino floors. We've taken an otherwise moot discussion where these guys don't have online divisions, and we developed the online versions of them. We also have content custom capabilities, and these things are, these games are games that we would do with some of our partners. If Caesars or BetMGM or FanDuel will come to us and say, hey, we would like to have a bespoke game because we would be exclusive distributors of it, we will do this for them. We also have in our strategy brand extension opportunities. And so as you can imagine, and just like other industries, some games become hit games. Those hit games are happening at an average of 1 to 10 or 1 to 20 games. When these games happen, what we do is we create brand extensions. And so Dragon Power, Dragon Power is one of these examples. We released that game in 2020, and it became one of the most played games in the US. We've done Kino extensions of it. We've done Fairy Dust version of it and other versions that make the game a lot more interactive and keep the longevity. And then you can see it on the slide, and I want to go through some of the other slides, but we have innovative new game mechanics, and then, of course, promotional tools to engage the players even further. And so you can see that since the first quarter of 2023 and into the second quarter of 2024, you can see the games that were released from our own studios and the Powered by Bragg. The Powered by Bragg are all these studios that I said that we have deals with, where we take their content online, and the Bragg studios are all proprietary studios. You can see that the cadence of the games that we release is growing as well. And it's important because partners of ours, and we'll talk about the partners soon, but the DraftKings, the FanDuels, the BetMGMs in North America, the Superbet, the 888, the Mr. Green in Europe, they know that they can rely on Bragg and the Bragg studios to deliver content in a fashion. You can also see that the games are starting to perform better as we deliver and issue more and more games or release more and more games. You can see that some of the game design and the land-based games that we're converting online are doing a lot better. You can see that the Powered by Bragg and the Bragg Studios are growing, with the Bragg Studios, of course, growing more. One thing, and before we talk about the numbers, you can imagine that the Bragg Studios, these are games that we develop in-house. These games carry 100% gross profit margin because we don't have to pay any third parties for it. And so, of course, our best interest is to sell as much of the proprietary content from our content studios because we have huge upside on selling our own proprietary content. We grew our North American presence by getting licenses in the different jurisdictions. And as I said, the 4 different jurisdictions, the New Jersey, Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Connecticut, out of the 7 iGaming states are where most of the revenues are derived from. And now that we have all the distribution agreements, we're focusing on the Canadian provincial lotteries. And so we're getting licensed in British Columbia. We're in Ontario. There's discussions about Quebec, Alberta, Saskatchewan, and more. The opportunities for the Canadian provinces are actually pretty amazing because unlike in the U.S., where you have 10 to 25 operators in a specific jurisdiction or a specific state, in Canada, except of Ontario, it's one provincial lottery that you have to supply to, and they have 100% share of the market, or the legal market. We talked about the content, and so I want to give you some taste of what our PAM is, our player account management, and you'll see that these are mostly European operators and European countries that we operate with the PAM. In the U.S., capital market dictates that operators need to own their own technology. In the U.S., because the market is different, we do it slightly different. Our platform is up and running in the Czech Republic, in Croatia, in the Netherlands. In the Netherlands alone, we represent about 30% of the gaming revenue that is in the country. That is, our customers are on our platform and are buying our content. We're very well known for our rapid expansion in our localized PAM solutions. But as I said, it's jurisdiction specific, and it's mostly about the European market. And so I talked about what we do, but as a B2B, I want everybody in this room and everybody listening to understand how we make money. The content and the technology that we offer is on a B2B basis. That means that we do not take money from the end users. The player, which you'll see on the right-hand side, is the end user. This is the me, this is the you, this is anybody that goes on any of online betting websites. The iGaming operator is our client. We essentially sell to iGaming operators on a B2B level or on a B2B scale. And Bragg takes a rev share from the operators. And so essentially we're one step removed from the end user. We're one step removed from the player that is playing the games. This is not our wallet. The money doesn't go into our bank accounts. And so to illustrate the point, and without getting into too many details because I think it's clear, Bragg will have a game, call it Dragon Power. We will sell the Dragon Power slot title to DraftKings. each one of you guys in the room, not in Las Vegas because you can't do it online, but in New Jersey, will go on a DraftKings website. You will play the Dragon Power game. If you lose $100 playing the game, that's the player losing the money. DraftKings will get $100 as a gross gaming revenue, and 10% of that will be our revenue. So we will get about 10% of the gross gaming revenue of the game. All of that is to say that we have partnered and our customers are some of the biggest or the biggest gaming conglomerates and gaming operators in the world. All of these lists, or the whole list that you see here on the screen, these are all our customers in different jurisdictions. Some of them are all around the world because they're gaming conglomerates like an Entain. Some of them are more regional operators like a Superbet. But ultimately, we're selling now to tier one operators in any jurisdiction where we're licensed and they're licensed on a B2B level. We also continue to be recognized with awards about our technology, about our content, about our performance, and all of that is, and you can see it on our website, all of that is to say that the greenfield technology that we developed and the content that we're building is something that is recognizable and is essentially sold to any and all the operators that you guys know as well. And all of that means that we're growing our revenues. In 2018, when we went public, I don't remember the numbers, but it was very small. You can see in 2019, the revenue was 26.5 million euros, and we had about 1 million of EBITDA. I think in 2018, when we went public, our EBITDA was negative. And of course, since then, you see sequential growth in revenue. It's about 37% on average, compounded annual growth. Our gross profits have grown 43%, and our EBITDA grown. I mean, I don't know who calculated the 97%, but from 1 to 15, that's on a compounded annual growth rate. But we went from 1 to 15.2 in 2023. We've also released our numbers and our expectations from 2024. Our expectations for 2024 for revenue, our forecast is anywhere between 102 to 108, and our adjusted EBITDA is about 15.5 to 18.5. So you can see continued sequential growth in revenues, in EBITDA, in gross profit, and all of that is on the back of continuing to grow and expand our presence in Europe and North America, new licenses, new operators that becoming our customers, and of course, cadence of content that comes out. It's not the end, because the regulated iGaming industry is huge today, but it continues to grow. We talked about the U.S. coming live in 2018, and you can see North America in that dark little graph in 2018. The U.S. alone is estimated to be at about $30 billion by, how long is that? The U.S. alone is estimated to be about $30 billion in gross gaming revenue. Just imagine if the iGaming industry in the U.S., which is now legal in only 7 states, becomes as regulated as sport betting, with 33 different states. Today, there's about 11 or 12% of the U.S. population in states where iGaming is legal. Sport betting is legal in 33 states. I think it's closer to 75%. So that alone, if you just look at the market opportunity in the U.S., is continued growth. What I like to tell investors, and this is mostly on the one-on-one, even if we don't grow our market share and we just continue to grow with the market, the growth with the industry is immense. I mean, there's a 17% global annualized growth rate projected from now until 2028. If we don't grow our market share, just grow with the market, there's still an opportunity to grow 17% a year. And that's globally. In North America, it's about 27%. So the industry is a big industry, and we're a player that continues to grow in that industry as well. I'm getting messages about how long we have left, and I think that there's some people that wanted to ask questions. So I'll do this quickly, and then we can ask some questions. Our strategy is geared, is really on 5 levels. We continue to grow our proprietary and exclusive game roadmap. And as you can imagine, like movie studios, the more content you release, the more likelihood that one is going to be a hit game. And then you take those games, you continue to develop them, you do brand extensions, and you grow these numbers. We position ourselves in a regulated market and growing our digital footprint, there is a paradigm shift towards regulation in online gambling, and we're at the forefront of it. Any market that we feel is going to be the next big market in iGaming, we're going and getting licenses. These licenses are very complicated to get, but once you have as many licenses as we do, it becomes an easier job because other regulators have already approved us, so it's easier to get licenses. We differentiate our proprietary content by offering player engagement tools and others to make sure that players have the ability to play those games in a differentiated manner. And then, of course, we offer a full suite of products and services, and having all these customers and continuing to grow in these markets allows us to have, it's not a recurring profitability model, but it's a reoccurring. You know that based on the content cadence of release and how the games are performing on average, we can kind of estimate what the games will do as we release them and what the platform will do. So with that, I'm going to open the floor for some questions. I know there's only 3 minutes left, but if you have any questions. So the question was, what's the ratio of computer to phone to TV? Look, I think it's a difficult answer because, one, I don't have the answer, but I'll give you some stats around it. In places where you don't have online gambling, in the U.S., let's talk about the U.S. If you want to play online casino, you can only do it in 7 states. Meaning if you're going to do it on your phone, you can only do it in New Jersey or Pennsylvania or Michigan. Otherwise, you have to go into like a land-based casino. Sport betting is different. There's 33 states that you can do it. But the paradigm is, and the cadence is towards legalization. If we sit in this room in 5 years from now, I will tell you that there's going to be 30 states and more people are going to do it on their phones. Any other questions? Yeah. Thank you for asking that question. I had a note to talk about this because most people don't understand it, and I think it's a very important factor. I started this conversation by saying that iGaming is a lot more profitable than sport betting. The reason it's a lot more profitable than sport betting is because in iGaming and in slots, there is a RTP, which is return to player. It's a fixed ratio of how much money the machine gets in versus how much money the machine spits out. Now, this is big numbers. You're talking about billions of spins. But on average online, content is at about 95 or 96% RTP, which means that when you do 1 billion spins, 5% or 4% is the operator's money, and 95% is returned to the player. Now, if you think about it holistically, again, law of big numbers, you would play, if you play 1 billion spins, you would still lose money, but at a 5% ratio. Ultimately, you win some, you lose some, and you win some, and you lose some, and you win some, and you lose some, with a 5% decrease of your money over time. That ratio is built into every game, and that ratio, when we go and certify our content with the regulator, so call it Dragon Power. I'm just going to illustrate the point. Dragon Power is a 95% RTP game. We will take the game to an independent testing lab, GLI. They will certify the game at a 95% ratio, and that game will have to stay at 95% ratio. And we sell it to the operators, and if you actually go online and you look for a game that you're playing, there's going to be all the information about the game, the RTP and everything else that comes with it. And this is why, unlike sport betting, which is a risk-based, you have traders and stuff that would have to set the odds. Here, the odds are set and they're fixed and they can never be changed. Last question. I have a minute left, if anyone. Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's slightly different. It's slightly different. What I was talking about is the return to player in the game itself. What you're talking about is taxes. So on the 5% that is The operator's revenue, gross gaming revenue, they tax that 35%. But the game in Maryland is the same game in New Jersey, is the same game in Connecticut. It's a 95% RTP game, no matter where you play it. 35% of the gross gaming revenue. Yes. So time is up, so I'm sorry I've got to take off, but I appreciate everybody coming in. Yeah, go on.